and managers in business. If you're looking to grow your business, contact mybusinessgroup.co.uk today for more information or follow the link in the description below. And as this is hot off the presser, we're proudly sponsored by High Point Access Limited, your number one-stop shop for all your working at heights and roofing needs. Find their details in all the links below. Thank you to High Point Access for your continued support of the Blades Ramble.
Like and subscribe to Blades Ramble.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I'm, of course, Jimmy, and this is hot off the presser. Thank you to everybody for joining us this morning. Before we get going, quick word from our sponsor. Do you want your favourite replica shirts for the World Cup? Check out okjersey.com. It's high-quality jerseys starting from just £15. I love mine. From modern-day shirts to the old classics that we all love. Use the code RAMBLE at the checkout to get 8% off your order. Get ready for the World Cup in style. And thank you to OK Jersey for their support of the Ramble. Thank you to OK Jersey. Don't forget to check them out and put 8% in at the checkout. So, Wilder's done a very quick pre-match press conference for Portsmouth. It were straight to the point, no messing about, all business. And I'm going to bring it to you now. So we're not going to be here for a long time. We're here for a good time. And I'll get your comments in as well and see what you think about it. I think it's a tricky fixture, this. We're okay right up until Countdown to Kickoff, which I'm now doing with Bald and Brilliant Lee. So if you haven't seen Countdown to Kickoff, go and give that a watch. Let us know how you feel about the new format. I love it. I think it just needed a little bit more balance to it. That's how I feel anyway. So... but Lee was telling us just how close the teams are in terms of form and things like that. And it didn't make for great reading, but it also, the counter to that is, it makes sure you don't take any opposition lightly in this division. Not that any of us do really, but sometimes you can look past it a little bit. A lot of us are looking forward to the Steel City derby already, but you can look past it a little bit. We need 3 points here. We need 3 points at Fratton Park. So... as always, Andy Giddins starts us off for Radio Sheffield. He says, as we turn our attention to Portsmouth, has everyone come through Middlesbrough unscathed? He says, yeah, we had Blaster come off at half-time. He wasn't very well during the first half. He mentioned it to the referee about 25, 30 minutes in there. He wasn't feeling great and he had to come off. He has had a couple of days off since. He was back in yesterday, so we're hoping that he'll be available for the game. Pat came through it okay as well, so everybody else is fine. Andy then says, are the injured players all still on track? Like Riedeveld, for example. He says, yeah, everyone's on track. Riedeveld might only be a week, 10 days away from getting back involved, so that's a positive. And that would line up with his original suggestion that he'd be back for the Steel City derby. A lot would probably say, why risk him? Why chuck him straight in? I think what will probably happen is, if he is available for selection, he'll come off the bench, which I think is sensible for everybody involved. With the turnaround from Monday to Saturday, are you considering any changes? He says, I'm not sure I'd call it that short. Monday to Saturday gives us a decent recovery time. There won't be wholesale changes, especially considering how the team performed. The result obviously wasn't what we wanted, but it's easy to focus on the shortcomings and ignore a lot of the positive periods against the top side. Looking back at it a couple of times, we made an electric start and should have been in front. The goal against the runner player knocked our belief a little bit, which it shouldn't do, but it did. The second goal from our point of view was a poor one. But we came roaring back. I spoke to their manager afterwards. I think he's done an unbelievable job picking up from Rob Edwards and moving it on. I said they're the best team in the division, in my opinion, and that's not just because we've gone toe-to-toe with them. It's the best team I've seen. It was a big test for us. Of course, we're disappointed with the result. We're here to win, but everyone I've spoken to has taken a lot of positives from the performance. I think that's been the general vibe from the fan base, and we've spoken about it since, and this will likely be the last we speak about the Middlesbrough game in, we move on to Portsmouth now, don't we? I'm not saying we won't ever speak about it again, but it'll probably be the last mention at the moment. And a lot of Blades I'm talking to as well are saying exactly the same. Sometimes it's just hands up in it. We gave it a good go. It reminds me of, it was a different game altogether, but I remember that 5-4 against Fulham where we lost. But you were proud of the team. They were all players, in fact, Fulham players, I think, more so than Blades, were laid on the pitch after the game. It were just, and they were better than us. But it was such an entertaining game, and we gave it everything. And as United fans, that is all we say. And Wilder has it as a minimum expectation. And I love that the standards are so high. But for most Blades, you ask most Blades, and they will tell you, we don't need to have the best players. We don't need to dominate possession. We want to see people giving everything for the shirt. And if they do that, then we're happy. Look, and you can let off the odd mistake. I know people will be frustrated from pockets the other night as to what happened against Middlesbrough, and things could have been avoided. Some people blame Cooper. Some people look at Arblaster. Some people look at the Arblaster-City Peck combination. And yeah, there are chinks in our armour, definitely. We're 17th in the league. But that team, in terms of effort levels, I don't think you can gripe on what we saw on Monday night. So, proud of the team. Sometimes the other team is just better on the day. And I think that's what happened to us on Monday night. Over the last 3 or 4 games, how happy are you, says Andy, with the form? He says, over the last 15 games, it's been top of the table form. We've nudged our position down slightly because of not getting that result, and that's frustrating. But the second half especially, we got ourselves back in it. Tyrese had a shot that the keeper knew nothing about. He had a decent night. Then Joe's sending off obviously swung the momentum. We felt at that point we'd at least get a draw prior to the sending off. Joe knows he got it wrong. I'm talking about Joe Rothwell now. I spoke to him. He said he just wanted to make a big tackle to lift the crowd. His timing was off. That might be because he hasn't played a lot of football. He was devastated. And as I said, he had his head in his hands in the changing room afterwards. But on another day, we walk out of there with a 2-2 and it feels different. I'm not going to beat the boys up about it. We go again on Saturday. A month ago, you said Gus Hamer needed more time. You said Gus needed to give you more, sorry. Since then, he's produced assists, nearly scored, hit the bar. What's changed? And he says, sometimes you have to take action as a manager. It's not always about putting an arm around someone. I love this, because Gus is notorious for, I think he's been protected at times this season. And Wilder will know whether that's the right time to do it. But then he's also called him out in press conferences, him and Tyrese Campbell. And I certainly, and we have to anyway, whether you like it or not, you've got to trust his judgment on when is the right time to do that. So he says sometimes you have to take action as a manager. It's not always about putting an arm around someone. You give reminders where they are, what they've achieved, what they can achieve. It might be tactical, it might be selection, it's about standards. But Gus is the biggest driver. He decides his performances. The team's performance levels have been good across the last 15 games. Gus has responded. Ipswich away was really good. Millwall, Norwich, goals and assists are important, but there's more to it. Out of possession work, tactical discipline. A lot of people have spoken about Gus's out of possession work. He's notorious for... We get frustrated with Gus Hamer because a lot of times, in most games, and not necessarily against the top of the table teams, but in most games, he's the best player on the pitch. And he doesn't control games like he could. I wouldn't necessarily say should, but he could in a lot of scenarios. People have often talked about him drifting in, and me as well, drifting in and out of games. But then you only really need 10% of brilliant Gus Hamer to sometimes tip a game for you. So 80 minutes you can go missing, 85 minutes you can go missing if you come up with the all-important goal and assist. But we want more, don't we? Out of possession work, tactical discipline, and that's what I was going to say, because a lot of people recently have been saying how good he's been out of possession, chasing the ball down, getting back and helping his man. I don't think it's quite been perfect, but I think the effort levels are certainly there. If we get Gus back to his best level, says Chris, he's a massive asset in our quest to win games. He's not on the P word anymore, is he, at the moment? On Portsmouth away then. Fratton Park is never easy. Championship football never is. Both teams will be going for 3 points to climb the table. We know what it's like. There. Last season it was tough. Could have won, could have lost it. A draw was probably fair. At home this season we just edged it. Sending off maybe played a part. Nothing changes in our approach. You look at results across the division. People thought we'd roll Oxford over easy. But then they play Coventry and get a draw. That's the Championship. We're a big club in this division. We've earned that right over the last 10 years. A top 25 club in the English football, in my opinion. That's it. That's here to stay in it by the sound of it. that top 25 club. That's been built from within through success, recruitment, academy development, infrastructure. So we have to handle that expectation. It's a tough place to go. They're an honest group and a well-coached side. We'll have to produce a good performance to win. My criticism of us over the last 6 to 8 weeks is that we haven't turned enough losing positions into draws and enough draws into wins. Even on Monday, we could have turned that into something. We've lost the game. We reset. We go again. Danny Hall then comes in, Sheffield Star, and says, talks to him about selection, competition and squad depth. He says, yeah, it's not just Gus, because he mentioned Gus in the question, but he don't right here for me. It's not just Gus. Nobody gets special treatment. Callum's done well in that role in the 10 and sometimes out on the left. Possibly our player of the season so far, Callum O'Hare. So there's no guarantees. Players have to fight. The hardest part of my job is managing players who aren't playing. They have to remain team players. Some respond well, some don't. You might not be involved 1 week and suddenly you're thrust back in. So the attitude has to be consistent. Competition makes us better. I agree with that. The only slight concern I have is, and he's mentioned it himself in a roundabout way here, but he also mentioned it during the transfer window in terms of how many ins and outs and things like that. We don't want too many bodies in and around it who aren't involved, and that's what we have now. Our squad is bloated. We couldn't get the numbers out that we wanted, and we ended up getting probably more in than we expected. So the hardest part of my job is managing players who aren't playing. He's right. It's one of the hardest jobs. Certainly, he's saying it's the hardest. They have to remain team players. So now you've got people like Chong, who were out of the squad altogether, fit to play, but out of the squad altogether. Mark McGuinness. These players who are further away now. Samari, even further away from the first team. How do you keep them positive in and around it and not negatively affect those boys that are trying to go out there and actually get the job done? Danny says, just wanted to ask you about Jamie Shackleton as well. What's the situation with him? He says, yeah, it's been a difficult period for Shacks. We're looking at a medium to long-term plan now. This season might not be about getting him back for a few games. It might be about getting him physically above the level he was before. So does that mean Shackleton is out of contention for the season? It certainly seems like it. He's been incredibly unlucky, says Chris. The knock he took early in pre-season at Rotherham set things back. It was a smart signing from Leeds. Good quality. Now it's about getting him back flying for next pre-season and reigniting his career. Now, I disagree, if I'm honest. I don't think it was a smart signing. I think what he's saying when he says it's a smart signing, because I think he said a free transfer, it was an understandable signing at the time. I completely understood it. He has definitely been unlucky. But this is almost 2 years where he hasn't played for Sheffield United. Let's have a look and see if Jamie Shackleton appearances. If I could type, it would really help my cause. Appearances, Sheffield United. So in the 24-25 season, he made 12 appearances, which is surprisingly high. This year he's made 2. I'm sure on some detailed stats it will give you the minutes. Oh, it does. It does. So last season he played a total of, oh my word, 283 plus 66 minutes. No, I'm not counting the Premier League Cup. So he played a total of 283 minutes last season. So that's just over 3 games. And this season, he's played 21 minutes over 3 games. That is appalling. Appalling. And don't blame the lad. Don't blame the lad at all. It's not a smart signing. In hindsight, it's been a really poor signing. A bit like Tom Davis. Again, that doesn't reflect on the kid or his ability or what he's like as a character. But for the club, as a business transaction, it's been a terrible signing. Terrible. And I would be looking to move him on in the summer, if I'm honest. Get him fit by all means. We don't, I'm not one of these that's completely heartless, but you do have to understand the business side of football as well. And we have to take into account, should I say, we are going to be on a much tighter budget next year. We can't afford passengers. And a lot of people, when they're looking at the squad, forget about Jamie Shackleton. They forget he's even here because he's so rarely available. So yeah, Wilder says it got a smart signing from Leeds, good quality, and it's about getting him back flying for next pre-season and reigniting his career. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. And finally, Danny says on our loan players, we keep close tabs on all our loan lads. Says Chris, we review games, we speak regularly. Resources now mean we can monitor them constantly. It doesn't necessarily mean somebody's there watching them all the time. But because of what we've got available in terms of tech and stuff like that, we can get all the footage and the info that we need. We're delighted with Marshy and that he's made an impact. Ryan One's finish the other day was a fabulous one as well. We want all our boys to do well, whether they're here, out on loan, or elsewhere. And that were about it. I think there were a couple of more bits where he mentioned, something about, they're all part of the club, aren't they? The longer-term future is here. And he said something like, well, not necessarily. But yes, they are Sheffield United players, which I thought were interesting, but he didn't put it in my transcript. So yeah, an interesting one, really. It just sort of, I always like to just dip in and see where the manager's head's at, and I think his mood often sets the tone for how things are at the club at the minute. And it's just on to the next one, isn't it? I think it's more now, head down, crack on, and see what we can do next game. One game at a time. Possibly, which should be the mentality anyway, but it's hard not to get carried away when you get so close. Had we beaten Borough on Monday, we'd have been 5 points away from playoffs. That is how tight this league is. I think something down to 15 or 16. No, there's like 3 points between about 5 or 6 teams to get into playoffs at the minute. It's really, really tight. And who's to say in a couple of weeks we won't be looking back again with hopefully 3 points this weekend and surely 3 points next weekend. Who's to say we won't be back in the mix, but we have to do the job in front of us now. We are making the job harder with every setback, and we just got to enjoy the ride. It's not, anyway, we'll see how we go. I want to see what you guys are thinking about it. The next time you see us live on the Blades Ramble, it will be for the watch along. Myself and Dave the Nose. Have I got it updated here? Yes, I have. Get in me. Well done. Saturday at 2:30, myself and the man who really knows, it's Dave the Nose, will be here for the watch along of Pompey versus Sheffield United. Will that man on the thumbnail start? I'm not bothered about Murphy. Will Calvin Phillips start for Sheffield United? We'll have to wait and see. Ooh, ha, 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 ha. The next time we will actually be live across any of our Ramble network, if you like. Ramble FC tonight. Football therapy, 7:30. We had to bump it from its usual Thursday slot because of the brilliant Gary Sinclair appearance last night on the Blades Ramble. Thank you to the Man Mountain for arranging. Thank you to Gary again for coming back on. Look forward to seeing you back on the channel after the Derby game when hopefully we've got a little bit to celebrate. Dave Morwood starts us off today by saying, morning Jimmy, I could have stayed in bed and caught up this afternoon, but nothing beats a live ramble and then nap time at 11 a.m. That does sound pretty good, actually. Up all the rambles, up the Blades, like and subscribe. Thank you, my mate. LA Blades says, morning, Jimmy. Being a Blade, living in Pompey, really want a solid win here. Up the Blades, up all the rambles, like and subscribe. I didn't know you lived in Portsmouth. Brilliant. I take it you're going then. You'll have to let us know. You'll have to let us know which end you're sitting in as well, because you could probably sneak into home end, couldn't you? Batman Lou says, morning, Jim. Found the comments about not turning defeats into draws and draws into wins interesting. Is a criticism of mine as well, but I don't think we've been much of a turnaround team for a while. We good if we get in front. Things to work on, but he's honest. But he's on it. But think blah, 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 blah. I'm going to say I'm going to join Dave Morwood in bed, but I'm not. You know what I mean? You know what I'm going to say with that? I need to go back to bed was going to be an original quote. Things to work on still, but he's honest about us, and that's why we love him. Up the Ramble, up the Blades, like and subscribe. Lou is absolutely right. I'd be interested to see the stats, Statman Jack, or Bald and Brilliantly, in what we're like when we go behind. How many points have we won from a losing position? How many times have we been level and then got the win? I think Lou might be right, I suspect, and Lou might have done the research himself, but I suspect we haven't often clawed points back from negative situations. Statman Jack says, we did win from behind against Blackburn and Oxford, though, so we are capable of doing it, Lou. Jack, who is now making a play for the ultimate positive blade. Very positive. Up the Blades Ramble, says Matt. Come on, playoff chase back on track. Love that. I have a feeling we may see Gyro tomorrow, though. I don't think we will. It just saves those every now and again, doesn't it, for special occasions. And I think he thought it were a bit of a good card to play, and I agree with him to put Bamford in the lineup on Monday. Right, I don't think we see Gyro until the bench on a week on Sunday, personally. Just hope it's on, says Lee. Yeah, that's true. They had the last game called off, didn't they? Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. That'd be awful. Hard to get into the playoffs now, so lose tomorrow. This is the final nail, says Chris. So you're telling me there's a chance? Ray says, good morning, everyone. Wouldn't be surprised if it was off with all this rain. Hope not, but they have a history of calling games off. Up the Blades, up all the Rambles, like and subscribe. Let's think positive. We can't. They can't call it off. They can. They can't. But let's hope that's not a possibility or not a happening. It's certainly a possibility. All this talk about Gus, and no doubting his quality, but we play best with two up top, and he doesn't fit into that. Results with him versus without him tells a story. I'm withholding my disagreement, my strong disagreement, because I haven't got the stats on with Gus, without Gus in the team, the results. What I will say is it wasn't working as a 4-2-3-1 because Gus wasn't playing well at all. And then we switched to two up top and it worked. And a lot of us were calling for two up top and it worked. And then Gus came back into form and kept his place on merit. And I would say he's continued to do so. He's continued to play well. So I think the question would be is, do you sacrifice what's maybe a more successful system to have one of Gus or Cal miss out on the starting lineup? And at the minute, would you say they're both playing well enough to do that? Maybe there's an argument, and Bald and Brilliant Lee had his team selection as Callum O'Hare being rested. And it is a rest because he's been the best player in our side this year. He's our player of the season, a lot of us anyway. And he had a 4-4-2 with Gus on the left because he thinks Callum's just looking tired at the moment. So, Josh, that would be a 4-4-2 with Gus involved. I don't know how you'd feel about that, pal. I'll have to wait and see. Lee says, feeling we win easily tomorrow. No justification for the feeling, just a feeling. I hope you're right, pal. I hope you're right. If it's on, I hope Gyro's fit enough to play. We've missed him. We have missed him. I don't think he will, Ray, but who knows? Who knows? Statman says, if we beat Ipswich with Gus, Josh, I think we play well in both systems, to be honest. Oh, we beat Ipswich with Gus, Josh. I think we play well in both systems. Different games suit different formations. We have the ability to change between the two with one sub, which is a good option to have. I agree with that. Billy says, morning, Jimmy. Really enjoyed the evening with Gary last night. Bet he can tell some wonderful stories. Top man, hope you can get him on again sometime. Thanks. It cheered me up the Blades, up the Ramble. Thank you, Billy. Much appreciated, pal. Yeah, he'll be back on after the Derby game. When I said Derby, I don't mean Derby County. I mean the Steel City Derby. So a couple of weeks probably, maybe 3 before we get him back on. But he's keen to speak about it, shall we say. Big T says, nah then, Jimmy lad. Fancy us tomorrow, 2-0 Blades. But if this rain keeps up, it could be called off. It could indeed. Big T, are you rambling on the road? You'll have to let me know, pal. Dane says, missed it again. Praise the Lord for the Ramble. Win at the weekend and we're still on. But more importantly, let's send them down the week after. Yes, mate. Thank you, pal. Hope you're good. Jack says, 3-0 again. Ole, ole. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Chariot says, we need to get our next 2 games won against lower opposition, while many of those above us all play each other. See where we're at the beginning of March. Up the 11K Ramble. Thank you, my mate. And LA Blade says, I'm in the Blades End. Can't wait. Right, that's it. That's the presser done and dusted. Less than half an hour for a Ramble. Has it ever been seen before live? Certainly not in recent times, I don't think. Oh, hang on. Chris is just asking, did Mr. Dumpling arrive okay down under? Up the Blades, up the Ramble. He did. And he is just as involved in the chat and everything else as he has ever been. It's great. We're getting regular updates from JD, Dingo Dumpling, as he's affectionately known in some parts. He was on the watch-along, actually, for the Middlesbrough game with Batman Lou. So no doubt we'll still be seeing his face. I don't know what the timings are for things like he's a regular on 90 after 90 and stuff like that. So I don't know what the timings are for things like that. But you won't if you didn't know he were in Oz, you probably won't notice, if that makes a difference. If you get what I'm saying. Right, I'm going to call it there. Thank you to everybody for joining me this morning. Excited for the game. Confident we can get 3 points. I have gone with 2-0, so did Lee. Let me know what you guys think. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards. Up the blades!